be a fuel leak. A little crack coming off the fuel line. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rebuild It. This week we're going to be continuing with, actually starting on the Triumph TR3A, working on just getting a few little things where it makes it more drivable and we can have some fun with it, since I've got the 68 Firebird all tore apart and I can't have any fun with that. It's nice to be able to have something to drive around for fun. So that's what we're going to be doing, and I apologize in advance for the sound quality of it, because I'm working over in it's stored in my mom's garage, and I don't have a tripod over there or a microphone or anything, and I'm just kind of doing it as I get time. So I'll run over there and work a little bit and then leave. So just enjoy it for what it is, and hopefully we'll get that thing where it's easy to drive around. And check out this awesome new sign we've got. It's lit. I don't know if you can tell in here or not, but that's cool. Anyway, that's done by Jody's Custom 3D Creations and Design. And Andy's going to leave a link down below, and he can make those for you out of your logo. If you got some kind of a logo that's cool as anything. And so that'll be down in the description below, and give him a shout if you need something. But let's get on to the Triumph. All right, so this is the first time I'm going to be working on the little Triumph here, and last time I started it we had massive amounts of coolant coming from this joint right here. So I'm draining the radiator down enough to where I can get this off. We'll see if we can figure out why it's leaking so bad. It's down at the bottom of that joint, and it's got looks like all new hoses and everything, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll see. We'll get it apart. And the only other leak I see is coming off around this valve. This is the valve that you can shut off the flow going to the heater core, and it's leaking around the stem. And I think that's just old school plumbing stuff. You know, I mean, that's the original valve, but there's packing tape in there like you get from the hardware store for plumbing, and hopefully we can get that to seal back up. So we'll check on that too. All right, so I've got the thermostat housing cover off, and I was trying to make sure that I didn't see anything that would cause a major leak. I mean, it's a little pitted on there, but that's nothing. I think the main thing is we just need to put some sealant on it. It was in there with no sealant at all around the gasket, which some say you should put sealant on, some say you shouldn't. I think I'm going to, since we had such a bad leak. So I'm going to check this other mating surface here and make sure I don't see anything weird on it, like any burrs or anything. Clean it up and then get it dry, and we'll get some sealant on there and get it put back together. But I'm waiting on the gasket actually, so it should be I think it should be in the mail today. So while that's not here yet, I'll go ahead and take apart that valve over there and see if there's some packing in there. All right, so that's what that looks like when you take the guts out of it. That's just screwed in there. That red stuff is old pipe dope, I guess, from who knows how long ago. So I'm going to take this top out, and I think that's where the packing is, because it's leaking around this top part here. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this is I've got some new valve packing. That's what it looks like. That's the graphite kind. They also make a Teflon kind. And I'm going to take this nut off the end of the valve, the handle here, try to get the handle off, and then take the stem out from the bottom, and then the packing material should be up inside this nut here, and this 3/32 looks way too thick to fit up in there, so I might end up having to try to cut that in half, like trim it with an X-Acto knife or something, and then wrap it around the stem and then put this back down in and tighten it. So we'll see if that can be done here. Okay, so here are all the pieces to this. And it turns out there was not packing material down in there. There was this rubber, I guess it was rubber, washer and it is hard and dry. So the only thing I know to do is there's no way I'd be able to find something that matches that, as far as I know. I guess I could look before I try to deal with it, but probably will make one out of that packing in there and see if I can get it to stop leaking to seal it. It's a self-sealing, so I'll just try to see what I can do here. All right, so there's what everything looks like all cleaned up. So now I'm ready to try to get the packing put in there. Okay, so there it is with the stem back in it, and I've got the packing packed in there. Will it seal? I don't know, but I'm going to put this nut back on. I'm going to try to get it to start threading, and it is. So I'm going to go put it in the vise and thread that down and put the handle on and see how it feels. All right, so there it is all back together, and I mean, it's hard to turn. It's turnable, but it's hard to turn, so that's what you want. I think you want it to be, that packing to be in there pretty tight. So I think it'll loosen up after you turn it in and out a few times, but I think that'll not leak. Okay, so there it is, reinstalled. It's all thread compounded up, so hopefully that will not leak, but we won't know until we finish with that. It's the next day, and I've got my new gasket and my sealant, and I filed down this thermostat housing cover to where it's really smooth. It had some pitting in it, and there's still just a little bit right there, but not very deep. I'm going to use my sealant, put it on both sides of the gasket, and wrangle that thing around in there until I get it in, and then I have to remember to put this little clasp right here on the bolt after we get it off. That's what holds the fuel line up off of the belt so it doesn't rub. So all right, so I have it all installed, sealed up. I'm gonna wait and let it dry, seal for an hour or two, and then I'll put some antifreeze water back in it. We'll start it up and see if it sprays out again after it warms up. Okay, so it's been a few hours now, and I've got the coolant put back in. So I'm going to try to get this thing started, which sometimes takes a little while until I can get it sorted out, and let it warm up. All right, so I've got it running, and it actually idles pretty good. It's sitting there idling at about 550 RPMs maybe. All the gauges are working. About 55 pounds of oil pressure. So we'll see when the temp starts rising what it does. See a little bit of leaking right here below this hose. So I'm gonna have to try to figure out if I need to get different hose clamps or what's going on with that. It was leaking really bad up here, but I don't feel that now. So we'll see once it comes to temperature and it starts circulating if we got any more leaks. I don't see any there. Well, last time that was already leaking right here. So that one stopped, looks like. Don't see any water leak, but I do see a fuel leak. A little drip coming off the fuel line. Got a little bit right there, so I need to adjust that clamp. I have my new fuel line in there, and I finally got the right ferrule. The original ferrule, which is a little ring that goes on a compression fitting that makes that metal line seal going into the fuel pump there. The original ones from England, I guess, are long ferrules that are weird looking. And so you use a regular quarter ferrule on there and it will not seal. And so I had to go looking around. Actually, my wife found it for me while I was at work at a parts store here. And so brought it back home and put it on there and no leak. I'm gonna start this thing and hopefully, and who knows, the fact that it was hard to start could have been because it kept getting air in the line with that hole in the fuel line. So we'll see if it starts easier, and take a while to get fuel pumped back up here since it was drained all out. So we'll see how easy it starts. All right, so once I got the car started, I had major leak. I mean, it flat poured out of that same thing. So that ferrule did not work, And then when I took it out and tried to readjust it, I ended up getting the threads cross-threaded, and so I've pretty much ruined that fuel pump. That is my luck today. So since there's no way to turn off the gas on this thing, I've been just coming over here every day or two and dumping out the fuel that's in a pan underneath there. And I finally got a new fuel shutoff valve here that I'm going to put in line. These originally had one, but they were so terrible that people usually took them off because they leaked like crazy. But they're supposed to go right there. There's the fuel line, and I'm gonna take that off, and it's gonna go everywhere when I'm trying to take it off and switch it. My fuel line on it, and then clamp down. Or all I gotta do is just stick it on there real quick if I can get that old hose off. And then that thing, I think that was a hose, but it is like hard as a rock. So it's not a fuel line; it's a hose. So I gotta try to swap those really quick. All right, so the fuel pump is off. Finally, that back bolt is a killer to get to. There's my new fuel line valve. So now I can have no leak. Fuel not pouring out while I work on it, so that is a big plus. So now I'll just wait another day or two for the fuel pump to come in, and we'll get that installed, and hopefully we get this thing going and actually take it on a little drive. All right, so we finally have the new fuel pump installed and no leaks. So that is great. And I'm not sure how much I've told you yet, but this thing, very, very hard to start when it's cold. Like if it hasn't been ran in a while, you almost always have to shoot a little bit of starter fluid in the filters over there. And I've done some research on these SU carbs. This is an H6 SU carb setup here. The choke on these things is extremely important to be able to get them to start. And so when you pull this choke button right here, pull the knob, they're kind of like a two-phase type choke. Like you pull them halfway out and it increases the throttle or the idle. It gives it more fuel just a little bit, and then you pull it the rest of the way out and it chokes it. So the way these SU carbs work is there's a needle that goes down from the this piston. There's a piston that runs inside these cups up and down, and a needle that goes down. And so there's a jet that is controlled by these levers right here that's hooked to the choke cable. And when you pull the choke cable, it pulls the jet down so that there's more fuel that can get in between the jet and the needle. And so when you pull the choke on this one, I don't see any movement on those two jets. So they're stuck, looks like, in there. I just need to get this carburetor apart and go through it, you know, and make sure everything, I mean, who knows how many years it's been since anybody's done anything to the carburetor. Also noticed a little bit of leaking going on down there on this running down the carb. So I'm sure those jets or whatever packing is around those things is probably shot. The only other big issue I'm running into, the car is over at my mother's shop, my dad's old shop. So I'm having to come over here and do stuff after work and not having much time to do it. The other big thing I'm having issues with on this car is the electrical. British Cars, Lucas was the brand that did the electrical in all of them. And if you look at some of the forums, they call it Lucas Prince of Darkness. There's all sorts of problems with electrical, and British Cars, there's always issues. And this one is no different. I'm having a hard time getting the turn signals to work. And Doug was in the process of switching this over to LED because he said the front turn signals were super weak, like you could barely see them. So he was trying to make it safer, but he never could get it to work. So I took the stuff off that he did, took the LED bulbs back out, put a regular flasher back in, and I've been trying to get it to, you know, going from the ground up, trying to get it to work. I do have the left one working. So if you turn on the running lights, both of my bulbs are working, and my headlights work, and my tail lights work, and my license plate lights work, which those didn't work before I started messing with it. Okay, so when you go to turn on your blinker, you have to give it the power. Okay, so I've got power going to it. I'll turn on my left blinker, and that is working. Okay, front and back. But I have tried everything to try to get this right one to work, and to no avail. It just, you hear the flasher, but I get no juice to it. It sounds like it's shorting out or something, or it just feels like it is. But all the controls for the blinkers and everything are in this cool little unit right here that stays stationary when the steering wheel moves. That stays stationary. Horn works now. It didn't work when I got it. Very robust horn on these things. And so I'm going to continue doing some testing. I got this awesome new tool that I got for my birthday from family members. It's called the Power Probe. All right, so I've got it hooked up, and you can see it. It's got these little headlights on it, so you can kind of see what you're doing when you're down there testing stuff. But you can, okay, if I want to test and see if something has a ground, like I'm going to test this negative part of the battery here, and you'll see what it does when there's a ground. Okay, so it gives you that tone with the green light over here. And if I have something that has battery power, it gives you that sound, and this plus light lights up. So you can go through and check all sorts of different connections and see if you've got a hot wire or a ground. And if you want to put your positive juice to something, you can touch this probe on it and push this button up here, and it will put the juice right into wherever you're trying to check with. So let's say I wanted to put 12 volts into this bulb. Okay, so I'm touching it off and on. That's in there. To it. So the fact that I don't have a blinker working, but it definitely, this is the blinking light. The other light goes to the running lights. So when I turn it on, it's working. So this part of the wire, this wire going to the bulb is not the issue. So I can plug it back in there, saying I know that that one's good because I just tried putting power to it and it worked. So I got to go on up down the line. So I got to try to find out, is it having to do with between the flasher, which I've already burned up 2 flashers trying to figure this out. Is it between it? Could it be the switch going in the center of the steering wheel that's the problem, or what? So I'm going to start trying different things, testing, and see if I can isolate where the issue is. I think I've pretty much narrowed it down to it being in the switch, which is the worst thing it could be because that's a very complicated thing and it's expensive if I have to replace it. But there's all the wires that go to the signal switches, or to the signals and to the horn, go through the steering column all the way down through that hollow column down to the steering box, through it, and then come back up here, and this is the wire right here that has come through all that. This one is running the left turn signals, and then the green and white one would be running the right side. We're having trouble with turn signals. So if I swap these and put the one that runs the left side into the wires going to the bulbs on the right side, okay, so I've got it swapped opposite here. So if I turn on the left signal and the right side works, it's not in all the wiring going to all the bulbs and everything. So I'm going to turn it back on, turn to left, and I've got a good right signal there and back here, and I've never been able to get either one of them to do that. So it tells me it's in the switch. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and remove this piece right here and take it home with me and get it on a table where I can spread it all out and see if I can figure out what's going on with it. But it's definitely got some kind of a short in it somewhere. It's causing everything to spaz out whenever I turn on the right signal. So I've tested everything else and can get it to work both ways when I turn it on left. So it's something with the right side. All right, so this is what it looks like when it's off. There's our wire that goes down through that steering column. It goes all the way down to our, what they call a trafficator. We would call it a signal switch. Remember, my trouble is with the white and green wire. And check this out. It looks like it might be touching this horn. This is what makes the horn honk. This is the actual horn button. When you push on this, this copper touches these two copper pieces here and makes the connection across them and makes it honk. I'm going to loosen this up and move this connector off of that where it's not touching that and see if that makes a change here. Okay, so I've got that moved and tightened back up. That's where it's not touching. So I'm going to put it back together real quick and we'll see if that changed anything. So now if I turn it left, I got left signals. Turn it right, I got right signals. Ah, victory. All the time, it's just a little ground in the switch, or that is grounded out in the switch. So now put that back together. There's also a light right here that will illuminate whenever it's flashing, but I got to get the correct flasher, which is on order. When that gets here, I should just be able to plug the flasher in and be good. All right, it's the next day and I'm waiting on parts to come in. I think they're supposed to be delivered today. One thing I've got coming is a new license plate light. This one has got a broken ground right here. It breaks so that it won't hold the bulb in. I just got the bulb kind of hanging in there. So that's ordered, and I ordered all new rubber, all the different turn signals, because they're all dried out and you can see they're cracking. And the way those work is you have two different little pieces that go in. Your ring goes like that on your lens. Your ring goes up inside this first slot there, and then your lens goes up inside the second little slot. So you have to feed them both in at separate times. I guess you do the lens first. Goes up in there, and then put your ring over it. So the new ones will be a lot more pliable. And so I'm going to go ahead and get those off the rest of the way on the front and back. And also I have, if you notice the shifter on this thing, anybody know what that goes to? It's not a Triumph. That's actually the Wolfsburg crest. So that's from a Volkswagen. There was that crest was on a lot of the VW Bugs and some other stuff, and that Wolfsburg crest was from the Wolfsburg Castle in Wolfsburg, Germany, where the VW factory was. So I have no idea what's doing on this car, but this is the correct one. Little bitty tiny knob, and I don't know if you can read it there, where it says lift. That's why we had such a hard time getting it in reverse the first time I drove it at Doug's house, because every one of these I've ever driven, I mean the old little foreign cars, you would, to shift it in reverse, you'd push down and then over and down. You know, this one you lift up. But I'll swap that out and then go ahead and continue getting off the rest of these boots off of the lights. So I've got the front back together. There's the nice new rubber on there, both sides. Got the bumper back on, everything. So now I'm going to, and I got my new flasher in. So I'm going to go over to the back and start working on lights back there. And when I work on this back here, I'm going to run a extra ground. These lights are all just grounded to the frame with these. This is the hot wire here, so they're just grounded with these screws to the frame. So a lot of people say they have trouble with that ground, so I'm going to run an extra ground. These little fixtures have that's where your hot wire goes, and it's made for a ground right here. So I'm going to go ahead and run one to each of those, and then probably mount it to the bolt holding the fuel tank in. All right, so I've got the back, all the lights back together, and I've got my new ground wire ran to all three of these lights connected, and then ran right with this here connected to the frame through the fuel tank strap there. So we got good ground. So let's check our signals. We should have a blinker blinking up here on the dash and all the signals working on the car right now. Signal on the right. There's our flasher up on the dash. There's our flasher back there. And there. Okay. Let's try our left turn. Working on the dash. Back there. And back there. Success!
Success! Success! We've done it! We've done it!
So that's done. So this thing is ready for inspection. I'm going to go ahead and start it and clean up all the junk out of the back of the trunk, put the mats and stuff back in there. And maybe we'll take this on a little drive around on the back streets here. All right, so I've got it outside running. And I'm about ready to take it on a little drive, check how stiff the steering is. Since I worked on it a little bit. It idles good, it's a little bit high idle. So I'm gonna take it on a little spin, see what it does. Well, it seems to run and shift fine. I've only got it through the first 2 gears, but I'm gonna see if I can get out here and get it up to the third anyway. The steering is really stiff, but that might loosen up. I got some slop in it, but I might be able to get that to tighten up with the steering box. But I would show you what it looks like driving it, but it's hard to drive this thing with, you gotta almost have 2 hands on the steering wheel, it's so stiff. Well, I'm back and I got here and it was running a little bit rough, so I popped the hood and I kept hearing a ticking sound. Looking around and I found a broken plug wire. I don't know what that could have got caught on. It might have got caught on the steering column or something when I turned and it broke it off or something. Anyway, it was grounding out, so I'm gonna fix that and then wire all this stuff up where it can't grab a hold of anything and try it again. All right, so I've got those all zip tied up where nothing can catch. That's all I can think of is that it caught on a bolt or something on the steering column and ripped. Anyway, we'll start it up again, make sure it's in neutral. I don't know if I showed you this before, but on these old British cars, you can start them from the hood. I guess it makes it easier since you're constantly working on them. But right here on the solenoid, there's a starter switch, so. We'll let it warm up a little bit, try to lower that idle a little bit this time. We'll take it on another spin. All right, so the idle's down better now. It's about 700. So that's a lot closer to where it's supposed to be. All right, so I'm going to get this thing inspected tomorrow so I can get it licensed. And I want to get it cleaned up a little bit before I take it down there. Let me just look how dusty and nasty the hubcaps are. You know, there's just a lot of dust and stuff all over it's just been sitting a long time. So I'm going to go through and clean that up really nice. And I've got some areas up here. The paint's bad. I'll eventually paint it, but I'm not going to do that for years, probably a few years. It's got some of these little spots on them. I thought it was paint chips, but they come off. So I might take some, whatever you call it. It's a little putty that you knead and wipe on there. Clay bar, thank you. And try to get that off. Just some areas like that, so. Okay, so it's all nice and clean. Really, the interior doesn't need much except for this this gauge plate there. It's just held on by wing nuts on the back of it. Sometime I'll take that out and it's got like a crinkle finish on it. I can put crinkle paint on it. That interior will look really good. So it's just the paint that's bad. I clay barred this trunk. You can tell by, you can't really hear my hand moving around on it. And look down here, I didn't do this. So, big difference. This stuff is some kind of overspray. It's not paint chips, but even though I clay barred it, I couldn't get it all out. Got some of it out, but anyway, there's so many scratches, it doesn't matter anyway. Next big thing on this is to take the carbs off and try to get it where I can make those choke jets come down, where I can start it easier without using starting fluid, and do a couple more little things on there to try to get the idle to stay down. And if I can't figure it out, I'll send them off. I know a guy that rebuilds SUs, so Everything else is just, playing around with it.
Well, all in all, I'd say that was a pretty successful video. We fixed some leaks, we caused some more leaks, we fixed those leaks. We chased down some electrical gremlins that have been there for who knows how long and fixed those. Did some general restoration stuff, did some maintenance. For now, we're just going to keep on restoring this thing, and as new parts come in, Dad's going to get those put on, and you should see me in next week's video, I think. And we actually get to get some footage of it driving, and me driving it, which was honestly terrifying, but you'll get to see that next time around. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys are enjoying these more restoration type videos. It seems like we've made a complete and total 180 from only rebuild stuff to now we're only doing restorations. So we were like buying a car off Copart and fixing body stuff, and to now we're doing solely restoration projects. We've got my 78 F100 behind me, we've got Dad's 68 Firebird, and now we've got the 61 Triumph. Let me know what you guys think down below. Are you enjoying the restoration type projects, and which one's your favorite right now? But with that, it's time for our verse of the week, which is John 14:13-14, which says, "Whatever you ask in my name, that will I do, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it." I just hope that that's encouraging for you guys this week as you are going about whatever your business is and whatever you're doing. But thanks so much for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button down below, get subscribed, and then turn on the bell so you get notified for all future uploads. We'll see you guys next time. And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.